Welcome, everyone. We're about to jump into the incredible and honestly pretty dramatic story of how Islamic history was first written down, how it was saved, and how, at a few key moments, it was almost completely wiped out. It's a story about huge empires, world changing technology, and the power of a simple idea on a piece of paper. So, let's get right into it. You always hear about these amazing history books being the main source for everything we know, but that just pushes the question back one step, right? Where did they get their information from? How did these massive books even get written in the first place? Well, that is exactly the puzzle we're going to piece together. These names, they're absolute giants. Their books are the bedrock of Islamic history. But here's the thing. These guys were the final links in a long and incredibly fragile chain of knowledge that went back for centuries. And believe me, that chain was almost snapped more than once. To really get this, we have to go way back to a time before any of these great books existed. A time when history wasn't something you read in a library, but something you held in your mind. Think about it. In the first few decades after the Prophet Muhammad's passing, nobody really felt the need to write history down. Why would they? The eyewitnesses, the companions, were still walking around. History was alive. It was something you talked about. You didn't need to read a book when you could just go ask someone who was actually there. But of course, that generation started to pass away, and a real panic set in. The younger generation, they were starting to forget. The stories, the battles, the heroes, it was all getting fuzzy. The caliph at the time, Umar bin Abdulaziz, saw this crisis coming, and he acted. He gave a brilliant scholar, Ibn Shihab al-Zuhri, a mission that was basically a race against time. Go find the last living eyewitnesses, get their stories, and write it all down before it's gone forever. And al-Zuhri did it. He created the very first written history of Islam. And here is where you see just how delicate all of this was. Not long after this amazing book was finished, the caliph was assassinated. Then, within just a few decades, his entire dynasty was overthrown in a bloody revolution. And somewhere in all that chaos, that first priceless book of history, it was lost. It just disappeared, gone. So, the first rescue mission failed. But a new dynasty, the Abbasids, took over. And they brought with them a technological revolution that would change everything, not just for the Muslim world, but for the entire planet. You see, before this, a huge part of the problem was what people were writing on. Papyrus was super expensive, it was fragile, and making it was a slow process. That meant books were luxury items only for the super rich. But paper? Oh, paper was a total game changer. It was cheap, it was tough, and you could make tons of it. It was the key to unlocking knowledge for everyone, not just a tiny elite. So how did they get it? Well, China had guarded the secret of making paper for centuries. But in the year 751, at a huge battle, the Abbasid army captured a bunch of Chinese soldiers. And guess what? Some of them were papermakers. They brought that secret back to the capital, and the famous caliph Harun al-Rashid saw its potential immediately. He built the world's first major industrial-scale paper mill right there in Baghdad. And with that one decision, making cheap, accessible paper available to everyone, a new chapter in human history began. The Islamic Golden Age was officially on. This wasn't just a small change, it was an explosion of knowledge. With paper everywhere, the floodgates just opened. And for the next 400 years, Baghdad became the undisputed intellectual capital of the world. All of a sudden, scholars could write and copy and share books like never before. That fear of knowledge just vanishing was finally gone. This is the era that gave us all the foundational books we still use today. We're talking about Ibn Hisham's biography of the Prophet, al-Waqid's books on the first conquests. And then you have al-Tabari, who wrote a massive multi-volume history of everything from the creation of the world right up to his own time. It was an ocean of ink. And to give you an idea of how important this was to the culture, these scholars weren't just nerdy academics. No way. They were celebrities. They were respected on the level of a Cristiano Ronaldo or a Lionel Messi today. Knowledge wasn't just a hobby, it was the absolute center of their world. So for 400 years, this golden age thrived. But every great story has a climax. And this one, well, it's a tragedy. And the very technology that made it all possible was about to become a symbol of its destruction. The year is 1258. The Mongol armies, led by Hulagu Khan, are at the gates of Baghdad. And the crazy thing is, while the biggest threat in the city's history is right outside, historical accounts say the scholars inside were busy having these abstract, pointless debates. They were completely oblivious to the doom that was about to hit them. When the city fell, the destruction was just unimaginable. Hundreds of thousands of people were killed. The historians who survived wrote that the Tigris River, which ran through the city, literally turned red with blood. But then came the second wave of destruction. The Mongols stormed the House of Wisdom, the greatest library in the world, and they just started throwing all the books, centuries of knowledge, into the river. There were so many books that the red from the blood was washed away, and the river ran black with ink. And they didn't just destroy the books. They destroyed the very ability to make books. They burned the paper mills to the ground. 400 years of progress, just gone. The Muslim world, which had introduced paper to the West, was now forced to import paper from Europe. The Golden Age had come to a devastating end. But the story doesn't stop there. People kept writing, of course, but the world had changed, and a new invention was about to pop up in Europe that would create a whole new split in history. Even in all this devastation, brilliant minds kept working. You had Ibn al-Athir, who wrote about the Crusades. The amazing Ibn Kathir wrote his massive history of the world, called The Beginning and the End. And of course, the absolute genius, Ibn Khaldun, who basically invented sociology. The desire for knowledge was still very much alive. But while these scholars were painstakingly writing every word by hand, something else was happening over in Europe. Gutenberg invented the printing press. And just look at this gap. A really good scribe might copy 40 pages in a day. The printing press? It could churn out 4,000. This wasn't just a step forward. It was a quantum leap. And this is the final crucial twist in the story. The biggest Muslim power at the time, the Ottoman Empire, saw this new machine, and they banned it for 300 years. Now, the reasons were complicated. Some worried about the sacredness of the written word, others were suspicious of a Christian invention, and some were just afraid of what might happen if information became too easy to get. And the result of that 300-year delay was massive. While Europe was having a knowledge explosion, building universities, filling up huge libraries with millions of printed books, the energy in the Muslim world shifted. Instead of libraries, the focus went to building incredible mosques and palaces. A great divergence had begun. Which brings us all the way to today. This whole saga is a really powerful lesson, isn't it? It shows how societies that embrace new ways to spread knowledge can thrive, and those that turn away from them risk getting left behind. So it leaves us with one last really important question to think about. What is the printing press of our time? What's the game-changing technology that we might be overlooking right now?